It feels like traditional political systems are facing some really intense new challenges these days, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And from those challenges, we're seeing these completely, unconventional ideas bubbling up, sometimes from places you wouldn't expect.
Exactly. And today we're doing a deep dive into one of those really novel concepts, the DOGE Party.
Yeah.
We're looking at the source material straight from Marshall Hayner's declaration about this new political force.
Yeah. And what we're going to reveal today isn't just, the basic ideas behind the party. We'll get into its actual proposed mechanisms for how it would govern.
Yeah.
And what's really fascinating, I think, is how fast they moved to a very immediate, very real-world test of its goals. We'll definitely get into that.
Right. So our mission today is to kind of unpack the core concepts behind this intriguing movement, figure out what it wants to change, and maybe why they think this approach is the way to do it. Okay, let's unpack this. So the source material kicks things off with a pretty stark premise, doesn't it? Basically, the assertion that the long-standing two-party system in the U.S., it just doesn't really serve the people anymore.
Right. It frames it as bought and paid for, not by citizens, but by, private interests, foreign governments, even unelected lobbyists.
And that whole perceived mess, that's the backdrop for why the DOGE Party was officially declared by Marshall Hayner June 19th, 2025.
And what's really insightful, I think, is how quickly the party defines itself. It hammers on three core principles: sovereignty, freedom, truth.
Okay.
But it goes further. It's explicitly set up as a replicable movement, open source, borderless.
Replicable. So anyone could copy it.
That seems to be the idea, not just sharing code, but the whole structure, designed to be copied globally. And crucially, designed to resist outside influence. No foreign powers, no globalist agenda, no shadowy elite, as they put it. It's a very different model from your typical national party.
Okay, so if that's the problem, the influence, the corruption, how does it propose to cut corruption at the root?
Well, the source lays out some really specific commitments, big ones. Members, representatives, they promise never to accept outside funding.
Never. From PICs, NGOs, foreign governments.
Exactly.
Yeah.
None of it. But maybe the core mechanism they're proposing is radical transparency.
Right, the blockchain part. Putting all decisions and policies on the blockchain.
And that naturally leads to the question, okay, what does blockchain-powered governance actually mean? In practice, for a party.
Yeah, how does that work?
So the source explains that every single DOGE party decision policies, who they endorse, whatever it gets logged and voted on publicly, using the XPR network.
So anyone can see it.
That's the claim. Auditable, immutable, transparent, and there's a built-in accountability piece too. If a representative votes against what their voters decided, the source says they are no longer DOGE.
Wow, okay. So they're out.
Seems like it. It's framed less like a traditional party and more like a DAO of the people for the people. A DAO, decentralized autonomous organization.
Right, governed by code and votes, not people in smoky rooms.
Exactly. That's the model they claim for political action.
Okay, it's one thing to talk about this stuff in theory, right?
Yep.
Blockchain governance. But you mentioned they put it into practice quickly.
Yeah, and this is where it gets really interesting, I think. The source details the party's very first official vote, immediately applying these principles.
Okay, what was it?
The question put to the voters was incredibly direct and timely. War or peace? Should America go to war with Iran?
Whoa. Okay, that's a heavy first question.
It really speaks volumes, doesn't it? About the kind of, existential questions they believe the public should have a direct say on.
So how did people actually vote? What was the mechanism?
Right, the practical side. It uses something called the weboff.com wallet. And this wallet is pretty key to participating.
Okay.
It's described with a few important features. One, it's non-custodial. That means you hold your keys, your assets, not some third party, big for security, for sovereignty. It's also gasless, which means no transaction fees, basically. That's often a barrier with blockchain stuff, right? So this makes voting free more accessible.
Ah, okay. No cost to vote.
And it's apparently ready for wrapped assets to digital versions of other cryptos on this network, which could mean more flexibility down the line. The whole point seems to be lowering barriers for, direct democratic participation.
So wrapping up the core discussion, the source material includes this message to the world. How does it frame the whole project?
Yeah, it positions the DOGE Party as more than a protest. It explicitly calls it a plan, a whole new political architecture powered by blockchain.
Designed to fix things.
Designed to restore trust, accountability, freedom, that's the language used. It's really positioned as a call to action for anyone feeling, disillusioned or ignored by the current systems, offering a kind of concrete digital way forward.
So when you boil it down, the DOGE Party is definitely a novel approach. It's a direct reaction, it seems, to these perceived failures in the system. And it's leaning hard on new tech for governance, aiming for this radical transparency right from the start.
And that really brings us to the bigger picture, doesn't it? The wider implications of a model like this. I mean, what does this truly mean for the future of political participation and transparency? It suggests a pretty radical shift away from just voting for representatives.
Towards something more like direct democracy mediated through tech.
Potentially, yeah. Or at least far more direct accountability between representatives and the people.
So the final thought then. As technology keeps, reshaping everything else in our world, you have to ask, how might these kinds of blockchain-powered models truly transform the whole concept of representation and accountability for you as an individual citizen? Something to think about.